Bum 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 bum. The Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum. I really love the theme of the kitchen with the Peter. I'm gonna do that again. Bum 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 bum. The Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum. Wow, this kind of theme would never work at my apartment because I'm always busy with bismuth art, with all sorts of other projects. The worst sound in the world, part two of many airplane toilet. Well, I'll get to that in a second. There are some interesting sights and sounds that I did hear here in Grants, New Mexico, where I'm vacationing. So my biggest excitement is that the financial crisis part two is going on, and I can't wait to take advantage of the financial markets. I think something's going to plunge, and then the Feds are going to come to the rescue, obviously. But usually, there's a lot of margin calls. Precious metals go down. Strategic metals go down even more. I'm really excited to see the potential because bismuth prices haven't really corrected yet. But if there's a major recession slash financial crisis, for sure they will. And then I'll definitely load up. I can't wait to have tons and tons of that stuff. I had a dream one time where I had 6 tons of bismuth and I was making this large Buddha that weighed half a ton to 1 ton. And it was I can't wait to do. I got to figure out how to pour bigger things. So the biggest Buddha I ever poured was only like 6-7 pounds. So I still got a long ways to go. Now I'm obviously on vacation. It made me rethink about my work. You see, I have a lot of struggles at the workplace, but when I came out here to Grants, New Mexico, where I'm vacationing, it's not like I missed the work. I missed the, or it's not like it's not like I hate the work. I hate the going to work part of it. See, if I get a schedule that's like 4 hours or 5 hours or 6 hours, it's not just the 4 or 5 or 6 hours that get used up in my life or get consumed in my life. See, when I woke up this morning, I didn't have to have a concept of what time it was, right? I almost forgot that in New Mexico we have daylight savings time. And I almost forgot to change my clock. And I hate that part of the work more so. Actually, I don't hate working with the clients. I hate all the logistics that go into work. You see, 2 hours before you have a shift beginning, you can't be strung out. You can't be high on caffeine, or you can't be. I love to do intermittent fasting. Sometimes I fast to the point that I'm almost faint. Right? You can't be in a state like that 2 hours before work. You can't be. You have to be showered, and it puts a constraint, and also the geographical limitations on where you can. You certainly can't be here in Grants, New Mexico, even 4 hours before you have to work. Right? It puts a geographical constraint. It puts a physical constraint. It puts a psychological constraint. It puts all sorts of walls to where you can be and what you can be doing, even outside of the hours of work, right? And so I'll have to think about how to adjust my work situation so that there's less of that constraint, right? Obviously, a better schedule will go a long way to that, right? Maybe I'll talk to my boss about what I really dislike is when he has split schedules because the center, I hate to put it this way, but it's kind of in the middle of nowhere. It's not somewhere where I can run an errand. It's not somewhere where I can even go to a nearby library to sit down and do my computer games. Well, you might ask, why not just do it at the center? Well, because my boss is very nosy about it. And if I'm sitting at the center, unpaid, he'll ask me to do all sorts of chores around the office. And it's not like I can easily say no, right? I want to definitely walk away from the office. But actually, we got into almost a falling out about that one time, actually, because I was sitting in the office doing my own stuff. He kept intruding. And I let him know that, I got personal things I wanted. He kept intruding. And so when I filled out the time card, it was supposed to be a 4 hour shift or 5 hour. I added 15 minutes to that to account for all the intrusion that he had given, and I didn't think he would pay me. It was kind of, please stop doing that. It was kind of a way to say that. Well, I get my pay stub, and I don't know if it's because he's uh, uh, old or doesn't want to actually look at his card, or he actually confesses that he did something wrong. He actually paid me for those 15 minutes, and and then he realized he probably made a mistake, and he hasn't interrupted me. But it's still an annoyance. I'd rather get away from that place, but it's in the middle of nowhere, and so I'll have to think about how to do that. The ideal way is just not having those split schedules. So that's something I'll have to talk to my boss. Now, where it gets annoying is that the reason I have that split schedule is that I have this one student who comes really early, and then there's nothing for an hour, sometimes an hour and a half before the following students. And where it really gets annoying is the reason he comes so early. He just started his first job at a fast food place. And so I have to give up an hour and a half of no pay so that he could go work, right? But I really love working with him. Don't get me wrong on that. So that's what I'm getting away from when I go on vacation. It's not the actual tutoring that I'm getting away from, which is really sad. Which is really sad. I love the work but hate the job. But let's put it that way. I don't know if that's the correct way of putting it. I just hate how it takes up more time than what's called for, right? If I want to make it a goal. When I get a 4-hour shift, I want it to not impact anything else that I do during the other 20 hours. Let's make that a goal when I get home. Okay. Today is day 5 of no fap for me. I quit fapping again because Carrie Underwood turned 40 years old, and out of respect to her, because I really love her, I decided to try no fap again because I used to fantasize about her way too much when I was fapping, and so today is day 5. Now, what's really interesting is that in the past, part of the reason I have a hard time launching out of day 2 or 3 or 4 and getting into this good area is that I would compensate for no fat by eating too much. And a lot of times, even though I'm not overweight or anything, people comment, so what? You can eat all the food in the world and be fine. My remark to that is, yes, I may be physically fine, but psychologically, it works its way into my social life. It impacts my career, and at least fapping doesn't have that immediate of an effect, right? I can usually wait until I go home, or at least go to my car and put some covers over me and do it, and it doesn't immediately impact my career, right? And so this time around, for some reason, it might just be because I'm on vacation, so I'll have to think about that. For some bizarre reason, I've been doing no fap, and it's helping me with my intermittent fast. Usually, those two go in opposite directions. This time they've been helping each other, and I'm really excited about that. I'm going to have to think about how to handle my bismuth art when I get home again. I have a tendency to overdo it. Now, the reason I have a tendency to overdo the art projects is that there's so much gear that has to be set up, right? You got to paper the floor so that you don't burn the floor, and then you got to bring out the burners, and not to mention the bismuth bar sometimes comes in a 50-pound bar. You got to break them, and so by the time I set that whole thing up, I'm thinking to myself, I got to make as much as I can out of it because I've spent so much time setting up, right? But then you see the idea, right? You can't just take 2 hours, do it for an hour a day for like 2 weeks, right? You'll be wasting a lot of time just in prep work, right? But at the same time, it was also causing a lot of drama in my life. All right. Well, that concludes my podcast for today. The main theme is that I came here on vacation, and it wasn't even work that I wanted the vacation away from. So I'll have to think about how to arrange the work so that there's a lot less drama at the office. My goal is, again, if I work 6 hours, I don't want it to impact the other 18 hours at all, not a hair. That's my goal. I'll have to think about how to make that happen, though, and I'll have to think about how to continue my nofap without giving in to binge eating, and also The bismuth, how to not make it such a mess in my apartment and create such a drama in my life. I got my first cold or flu last week, my first one in 3 years. Although I did get COVID a few times in between then, because I really compromised my immune system when I was up days and nights in a row making bismuth art. This is the Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum. The Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum